utilities there. Okay, go ahead and jump back to your module folder and open up the 7th step, which is called Jquery Effects and Css. Go ahead and copy this code and paste it over the code that's currently in your interact.js file and save it. Okay. We've added some new code here under the effects section. And what we're going to do is just cover a couple of simple examples that demonstrates effects you can use when you manipulate the DOM. So the first is carrying over from our previous example where we hovered over an item. In this case, we're using the h1 as a selector. And you see here we're passing 2 functions to the hover method. Now this first one will occur when we hover over, and the second one when we hover out. And what we're doing is we're taking the region content, and instead of hiding it, what we're going to do is run fade out on it. And this function takes as its first parameter the number of milliseconds that it should take to fade the content out. And then when we hover out of the element, we want to go ahead and fade that content back in. And so we'll use the fade in method. The next example uses something called a toggle. So instead of adding 2 functions that will fade something in and fade something out alternately, we're using something called slide toggle. And this is a demonstration of sliding in and sliding out. And we could use those 2 functions, slide in and slide out, but instead we want to switch between the 2. So if it's out, we want to slide it up. If it's in, we want to slide it out. We're taking the block system navigation ID and looking for an h2 tag inside of that. So this will be the heading tag inside of the side block that contains our main navigation. And we're assigning it a click event. And we're passing it a single parameter, which is a function. And we're saying that we want to go ahead and slide the content that's inside of that block out if it's up, or in if it's out, using the slide toggle method. Before we jump back to the browser, let's go ahead and talk through a couple of the other examples that are in this code. This is the working with CSS section, and there's a lot to working with CSS, but I just wanted to cover a couple of the most common utilities that you'll end up using. Here what we're doing is we're taking all of the L tags and we're looping through using an each method, and we're running a function on each item. We're grabbing it using the this variable and wrapping the jQuery object around it, and we're checking for if it has a class using the hasClass method. So this will check to see if it has the class first. Now it can have multiple classes, and it will still check to see whether it has this one. You don't have to check for all of the classes that an element has. If it does, then what we're going to do is add some CSS styling to it using the CSS method. The CSS method takes as its first parameter the CSS property that we're going to adjust. In this case, it's the background, and the value of that property, which we're going to set to yellow. So what this will do is go through each of these li elements and highlight the ones that have the class first by giving it a yellow background. Next, what we're doing is taking the A tags on the page, all of them, and we're adding a class of active to them. And this will add some black styling to the text of all of the A tags on the page. This combination of add class and has class is pretty powerful, and we'll see it in later examples. What it does is allow us to sort of set breadcrumbs on elements that we have adjusted in some way, so that our later code can then find out where we've performed certain actions. We can do so by setting the breadcrumbs as classes on elements and then checking for the existence of classes to make sure that we're running on code that's already been processed or hasn't been processed. Okay, so when we jump back to the browser, we should see a couple interesting things. We'll see some additional styling to the li elements that have the first class, and all of our A tags should be black. And then when we hover over the h1 tag, we'll see a fading in and fading out of our content. And when we click on the title in our side navigation, it should slide the content of the block up and back down again on alternate clicks. Okay, let's go ahead and make sure that our code is saved, and then jump back to the browser and refresh. Okay, so we see a bunch of yellow backgrounds here. And so these are all of the li tags that have the class of first. When we hover over the h1 tag, we see the content of our page slowly fading away. And when we hover out, it fades back in again. All of our A tags, at least the ones in our content, have a black text color. And if we inspect them in our DOM browser in Firebug, we'll see that they have a class of active. All of them will have this class added to them. And this is one utility in Firebug that's really nice. As we adjust the DOM with jQuery, it's updated inside of this DOM browser here, so we can work with the code as it changes. And finally, when we click on this navigation heading, it hides the content, and then when we click on it again, it displays it again.